Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to be checking our blind spots and looking at the ground news blind spot reports. So, let's get started. What is the left missing out on? Let me zoom out just a little bit. Ownership of Covenant shooters' writings will transfer to parents of students. That seems like a weird decision, but okay. This development is the latest twist in the increasingly complex. This development is the latest twist in the increasingly complex legal battle over the release of Audrey Hale's writings and other documents in the police investigation. Supporters of the parents hope that they will transfer ownership. That the transfer of ownership will strengthen the family's arguments that they have standing to intervene and stop the release of Hale's writings. I don't know what to say about this, except that it's really obvious why this is the only mass shooting that the right ever wants to talk about. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. If there was a black mass shooter, they'd be all over it, but now that it's a trans mass shooter, they're all the fuck over it because they treat every white male shooter as if it's a fucking foul ball. Like, don't ignore it. I mean, don't acknowledge it. It didn't happen. It's over there. It doesn't count. Like, I really don't know about whether the writing should be made public, even like for. You know what? It's the right week. I'm actually going to respond unsure. Because, like, if it's suicide note or a manifesto, that kind of thing, we're used to those things coming out, but maybe it's better that they don't in some cases. But if it's not those things, then you're just you're just reading a dead person's diary publicly for what good that might do you. And I think that iteration is a bit of an overreach. Especially if it's being literally made public. So it kind of depends on the writing, personal level of it, like whether it should be acknowledged as being, I don't know. Again, unsure. For the right, oh my god, 12 million Americans still justify violence to restore Trump, finds survey. 12 million American adults, or just over 4% of the adult population, believe violence is justified in order to restore former President Donald Trump to the White House, according to a new survey by the University of Chicago. Literally, okay, so there's only 6 sources for this to begin with, so there aren't a lot of people who are covering this, and literally none of them are right-wing, which is not surprising at all. Ignoring their own extremist mentalities probably goes hand in hand with only talking about shooters when they're not cis white male. Just saying. Oh, yeah, and speaking of white people who want to fucking do violence that the right ignores, we're just right below it, man. What's the left avoiding? BioNTech faces first German lawsuit over alleged COVID vaccine side effects. Yeah, this is the kind of thing the right likes to talk about. BioNTech is facing a lawsuit from a German woman over alleged side effects of a COVID-19 vaccine. The first hearing set to take place on Monday. The woman is seeking 150,000 euros in damages for bodily harm, as well as compensation for unspecified material damage. Is there any, like, what were the side effects? What does she think happened? I mean, just because she brought, anybody can bring a lawsuit like this. I bet, I would wager that there is a just asking questions. I feel like this is true. This justifies our pre-existing biases happening over here. Whereas maybe we're getting some, objective reporting from the middle. And I've never seen any of these sources in my life, so I don't know how to feel about them. Actually, of these, I guess we got the Financial Times. This is one I can't pronounce because it's German. Whatever. Okay, next for the right, Israel demolishes homes of Palestinian suspect in Jerusalem attacks that killed 2. Goddamn. The Israeli army has demolished the West Bank home of a Palestinian Islam Farouk, who was arrested in December on suspicion of carrying out twin bombings in Jerusalem that killed 2 and injured at least 18 others in November. Why'd you tear down his house? I mean, there's a lot of things you could have done here that weren't necessarily tearing down his fucking house. I mean, what if he has a family? People have families. And now you've made those family homeless. But as I'm sure the left-wing coverage of this is happy to mention, it's kind of bullshit. And they just love any excuse to terrorize the Palestinians. For the left, social conservatism is at its highest since 2012. We know. We understand. We get it. We're afraid of them. But because they want to take away our lives and or rights. It's pretty fucking scary. We're painfully aware of this one. There didn't need to be a test. We've got it. 38% of Americans consider themselves to be conservative or very conservative on social issues, the highest since 2012. The percentage of those who identify as liberal or very liberal dropped from 33% to 29%. Okay. Wow. Oh, more conservatives than liberals then by nearly 10 points. Woof. And of course Tim Pool covered that. I'm sure he was really happy about it. Poser. Centrist Party alarmed as poll shows growing support for German far right. Weird how the right doesn't like to talk about the German far right. It's almost like there's a historical thing here. If only I read books and knew history and things, because I'm sure that there is a obvious recent German historical thing that parallels this. I don't know. I do not see what the problem is. Prominent members of the German mainstream party have expressed alarm at a new poll released showing support for the far-right Alternative for Germany at a record high. Oh, those bastards. That's kind of who I figured it would be. Yeah, they're very Nazi. Aggressively Nazi. Alright, let's read some split headlines. California governor proposes constitutional amendment to restrict access to guns. Oh, this one's gonna get crazy real quick. Newsom proposes fantasy constitutional amendments on guns. So the left, or at least New York Magazine, is trying to emphasize this ain't gonna fucking happen. Gavin Newsom proposes constitutional amendment for gun safety. Okay, the Independent seems to be taking it more seriously. The Hill. California governor proposes constitutional amendment to restrict access to guns. Good. Unlike sometimes you're right down the middle, The Hill. News Nation. Okay. I got something about Newsmax. I thought News Nation was more right-wing. I don't know. I don't think I've heard of News Nation, honestly. That just sounds like a thing that's always been there, that I've never watched or read. Newsom wants constitutional amendment to curb gun violence. Okay, yeah, those are accurate. Newsom proposed a constitutional amendment to restrict gun rights, and California Governor Gavin Newsom pitches 28th Amendment to limit gun rights. Oh, so this is a national constitutional amendment. Okay. I know. I figured it was going to be a California thing since he's the governor of California. Cool though. Okay, let's get on that. You know, these headlines weren't really all over the place. In fact, the Fox News headline would fit in with a lot of the centrist headlines here. And I really think it's because this is such a hot button issue for the right. They can write a plain, like, they don't have to get you mad with the headline because you're already mad at the idea, right? This isn't necessarily a story that you have to hype to the right to get them excited or upset about, that's just kind of the space that they occupy on the gun issue at all times. Poll from last week. Do you think militaries should have race and gender diversity targets? I think I said no to this one. I don't remember. I do think I voted in this one, from what I remember. I think it was a no, mainly because shouldn't be anybody in the military to begin. No, wait, I think I said yes because, you know, fuck them. If you can't form a military with 3 women, I'm sorry. 3 women, 3 men, 3 black people. You have a 9-person military because you couldn't get any more women or black folk. That would really just charm my peace-loving heart. Do you believe arming teachers would make schools safer? Well, I'm glad the majority said no, but damn, that 31% is pretty big. Oh man, just put more death machines in our schools. More death machines! More death machines! Alright, moving back a week, what was the left skipping out on last week? National debt hits $32 trillion 2 weeks after debt ceiling deal. Yep. And the right, and the left is ignoring this because we're not fiscal conservatives. Though arguably, according to how they actually use their power, I would say that the Republicans are actually more fiscally liberal than the Democrats. The Democrats are actually probably closer to fiscal conservatives compared to what fucking Republicans actually do when they're in office. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, we have taken the words liberal and conservative and just fucking warped them out of any and all context. Because somehow the Democrats are liberals, just in general. They're definitely socially liberal. I agree. But they're almost like fucking, they love means testing. They love how do you pay for it arguments. These are very conservative things. Like they try to balance budgets and shit. What do Republicans do when they get in office? They give the military more money. They cut taxes, which cuts income for the government. And that runs the budget way up into the fucking stratosphere every goddamn time. And I can't believe that in the interim, as they're running for office, they hit us, the voters, with this bullshit, this absolute fucking bullshit about how the government budget is like your like family budget or whatever, which it isn't. That's not how economics works. And anyone who knows, like anyone elected to office should be able to understand that is only a comparison. That is not how shit actually works. But then they actually get into office, they give 2/3 of their salary back to their boss, and then they make their house, their mortgage more expensive. And I'm just like, hey man, is this how you run your family budget? Because fucking A, I think you're exactly the last person who would say to your boss, no, take most of my paycheck back. You're rich. You need it more than I do. Because that's exactly what you do when you get into the fucking American government, you bunch of dense sons of bitches. I fucking hate you all. You sell out my class interest constantly. God damn it, I hate you all. Are you concerned about the U.S. national debt? I mean, yes, actually, well, it's too late. I will say yes to that, though. Here's why. Because it is a talking point. Because as a talking point, it is easy ideological cover for people to get behind and say, this is why we can't have nice things. Nobody wants to talk about how the national debt and the budget gets so blown the fuck out of proportion, and what our wars have done to that. Thanks, Bush. But this is our national debt is largely because of the authorization of the war in Iraq. Let's fucking face that fact together as a nation right now. Okay, now that we've done that, we have to pay back. You know, we now have to pay for the war in Iraq, and there are so many political pundits that will say, we're so in debt, we can't afford to help you, we can't afford to make sure that Americans have health care and shit, but we're just so in debt. Well, see, here's the other thing about that, though. Medicare for All, because of the way, and this is so weird that the Republicans will talk out of both sides of their mouth on this, probably because they're being paid by health insurance lobbyists or other lobbyists in the health industry that like this. But the reason, like, there's so many people within health insurance, within the hospital, like for-profit hospitals, all sorts of things. There's so many ways that they like to use government assistance to fleece the federal government. They really love figuring out ways to steal our tax dollars with bullshit while providing the worst care that is legally possible. That is their modus operandi. They are all making a shit ton of money, fleecing the government on our behalf. Do you know how much money we would save nationally? How much of the national debt would not accumulate every year thanks to Medicare for All? Because I don't know that figure off the top of my head, which is kind of weird that I brought it up. But I do know we would save money by providing all Americans basic level of health care, because it would create less opportunities for these shitbags to actually kind of violate the U.S. government, in part because they would no longer be in business. And I'm sure that there's someone thinking, well, what about their jobs? Fucking get different ones. I'm sorry. Jobs come and jobs go. If there was a job killing babies, would you be defending that? Because this job kills babies. And people of all ages, really, but also babies, if you're concerned with killing babies. All right, what's the right missing out on? California governor. Wow. Okay, so the left and the right is missing a Gavin Newsom story, I guess. California governor proposes rolling back access to police misconduct records. Y'all aren't into that? I thought the right would be cool with that. They seem to back the blue and all this shit. But like... The authority to investigate and decertify police officers for misconduct will be handed to local agencies, which can provide public access to the records. Criminal justice and press freedom groups criticized the proposed change, arguing that it would make it harder to hold law enforcement accountable and erode public trust. It's also especially troubling considering that it's in California. I'm sure, like, conservative police scare the shit out of me. But the only thing that would probably scare the shit out of me more than conservative police is the LAPD, because they are a fucking terrorist organization. And this is only going to make that worse. A lot worse. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. What is the left missing out on? Wuhan lab scientists studying coronavirus contracted COVID-19 first. I think like back in September of 2019. Yep. So if this is true, which I haven't seen any evidence that it isn't yet. This would mean that the first person to contract COVID-19 did so before the purported wet market event, which I don't know how this became the opposite, but for the record is definitely the more racist of the two explanations. I mean, come on. There's scientists in a lab, and then there's, well, they have dirty food markets. They're dirty people. They eat animals and they're disgusting. We love Chinese people, don't we, folks? I don't know. It just seems like talking out of both sides of your mouth. That feels like a really racist explanation, honestly. Even if it is plausible, I think with this, it no longer is. So, I don't think I've made a lab leak video, but I've basically been on the side of the lab leak from the point where there became enough information about it to kind of make a decision. Although, up until this point, it was my conviction that there wouldn't actually be an answer to this. I could believe either way I want, that's fine. But there wouldn't be like a definitive smoking gun answer to which of these theories was true, and there may still not be, to be clear. But I do think that this definitively disproves our working wet market theory. Could there be a different wet market earlier? Maybe. But like, now you're just moving the goalposts with this whole wet market idea, which is kind of weird. So maybe we should look where the whole fucking mountain of evidence shows this COVID may have come from, and then plan for the future accordingly. Anyways, moving on to what the right is ignoring. Oh god. UPS drivers on track to get air-conditioned trucks for the first time. I don't know, why wouldn't you? Oh, probably because unions. Oh, Teamsters union. No wonder they don't want to talk about this. Oh my god. You know, there's probably a lot of right-wing people who work for UPS who are desperate for air conditioning on their trucks because they are literally fucking melting and coming close to dying of heat stroke. The thing is, it would set their skin on fire. Literally, they would burst into flames. Like, look, with most of these, I'm sure you've seen a pattern by now to where there's like, I don't know, for this last article, for instance, skipped out by the left. It had 8% left coverage. Fucking no one on the right is talking about this. And you want to know why? I will lay it out real easy for you by reading the first couple words. Negotiators for UPS and the Teamsters Union have reached a tentative agreement. There's no way to spin that for the right that makes unions look bad. And you know how much they hate the Teamsters specifically. Like, I think that they would rather say Teamsters than union in a lot of cases, just because they have built up a more long-lasting negative connotation with the Teamsters specifically among their base. I mean, yes, their base doesn't like unions, but their base thinks that Teamsters are literal thugs. So, how about these thugs got you air conditioning, motherfucker? Negotiators for UPS and the Teamsters Union have reached a tentative agreement to install air conditioning in the shipping giant's entire fleet of delivery vans. And like, this is such a major victory. I hope that this is like a fucking turning point where there's all these other unions, all these other people in unions, all these other people who want to make unions that see this and go, yes, we can have a safe, non-hostile working environment. We don't have to be treated like slaves. Or wage slaves. I guess slavery was really fucked up. I don't want to make that comparison. But this is also pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up. Again, different ballparks of fucked up. Like I haven't read Dante's Inferno, but a more impactful level of hell for slavery than forcing UPS drivers to work the kind of work they do without air conditioning. I do think that is definitely a circle of hell, though. Like, everyone in charge of UPS, if there is a god, you are all going straight the fuck to hell. And then you will know what it feels like not to have air conditioning. So that's perfect fucking poetic justice, actually. What is the left skipping out on? Oh my god, it's Hunter Biden's bleeding face. This has got... according to Chuck Grassley, Burisma executive who has allegedly paid the Bidens has audio recordings. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley alleged that a foreign national with alleged bribery connections to Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden has 17 audio recordings of conversations with them. And judging from how the Trump presidency went, this guy is probably about to publish a book. That's just how this shit seems to go. But yeah, there's a lot of smoke. I'm not sure that there's a smoking gun yet, but there is what appears to be gun smoke for this case. I mean, can anyone explain like what qualified this man to work at Burisma other than the fact that it would have given executives within the company a direct line into American politics? Is there literally any other reason they're paying this crackhead to work for them? Anybody? Let me know in the comments. Okay, what's the right skipping out on? Soccer project tracking social media abuse identifies 300 people from World Cup posts. So it's a very small set of racists and bigots that have been harassing the World Cup. Surprise, surprise. Of the 20 million posts scanned, close to 300,000 were hidden from public view, and over 300 people have been identified for posting abuse. Their details will be shared with authorities to facilitate real-world action being taken. I mean, I guess communicating threats and stuff, not really sure what legal action, but also this is kind of a worldwide issue, so maybe there's other governments that do other things about this. I don't know. It's funny how the right doesn't want you to know that there's consequences for harassment of any case. All right, split headlines. This week's story is Starbucks is ordered to pay $25 million to ex-employee in racial discrimination case. Sexy. Washington Post. White ex-Starbucks manager awarded $25 million in race discrimination lawsuit. Oh no. This went in a completely different direction already than I thought it was. White Starbucks manager gets $25 million payout after staff blocked black men from bathroom. What? I just got so much more confused about... This is why headlines suck. I'm actually going to have to read a little bit about this one because I'm already deeply confused. Ex-Starbucks manager wins $25 million in discrimination lawsuit. Central... again from the Center BBC, Starbucks ordered to pay $25 million to ex-employee in racial discrimination case. Breitbart, Starbucks must pay former manager $25 million after firing her for being white. The first one actually to mention that's a lady. Everybody else skip the gender pronouns here. Of course, it's Breitbart, so maybe he's trans. And they're only doing this to misgender him. White former Starbucks regional manager awarding $25 million after jury determined she was fired because of her race. this just... Oh, here we are. Let me get, where's that raw story? Let me get to that raw story. Oh wait, is this the arrest of the black men who were quote unquote loitering? Juries in a federal court case have awarded $25.6 million to former Starbucks regional manager, alleged that she and other white employees were unfairly punished in the high-profile arrest of 2 black men at a Philadelphia location in 2018. Shannon Phillips won $600,000 compensatory damages and $25 million in punitive damages on Monday after a jury in New Jersey found that race was a determinative factor in Phillips' firing, in violation of federal and state anti-discrimination laws. In April 2018, a Philadelphia store manager called police on 2 black men who were sitting in their coffee shop without ordering anything. Phillips, the regional manager of operations in Philadelphia, southern New Jersey, and elsewhere, was not involved with the arrests. However, she was ordered to put a white manager who also wasn't involved on administrative leave for reasons she knew were false, according to her lawsuit. But y'all were managers. Like, this is the work environment that you created as managers. Like, do you not have responsibility for what you're... I may be misunderstanding what the word manager means here, because I thought that manager meant that you were, I don't know, managing the people below you. It's kind of weird how you're suddenly not responsible for their actions when it comes, like, legally speaking. If one of your employees murdered someone, I would expect you to get fired, yes, but I wouldn't expect you to be, like, convicted of murder. So when something like this happens under your watch, I think it's justified you get the fucking axe. I mean, you should have run a tighter ship, I guess. I don't know, man. Because I remember this story, and somebody deserved to get fired for it. Was it you, Shannon? Maybe not. But hey, this is your workplace. The company's rationale for suspending the district manager who was not responsible for the store where the arrests took place. That's confusing. I'll give you that. Was an allegation that black store managers were being paid less than white store managers, according to the lawsuit. Phillips said that argument made no sense because district managers had no input on employee salaries. So I guess what we're saying here is that Starbucks ratted themselves out for paying black store managers less than white managers. Gotta love it when that happens. Oh my god, this story is great, actually. Holy shit. The lawsuit alleged Starbucks was instead taking steps to punish white employees who worked in the area in an effort to convince the community that it had properly responded to the incident. Yeah? You know what? Maybe this is a radical idea, but who called the police? Maybe that person should be responsible for having called the police. I don't know. Is this hard? Is this difficult for you, Starbucks? I know you really love your performative wokeness, but it seems like this should be the way to perform wokeness, you know, by dealing with the person who did the thing. Like again, get rid of the managers if you want. It's their work environment. Bonus points if you actually get a manager who's in charge of the specific area where it happened. Just saying. Oh. Starbucks denied Philip. Okay, wait. I need to get up. During closing arguments on Friday, Philip's lawyer, Laura Mattiassi, told jurors that the company was looking for a sacrificial lamb to calm the outrage and show that it was taking action. Law 360 reported. Picking a black employee for such a purpose would have blown up in their faces. Yeah, no shit. Maybe part of the issue was that you were looking for a sacrificial lamb. Like you're doing some kind of fucking ancient blood purification ritual, you fucking creeps. Although I would say that sometimes this turns into the modern equivalent of such. Starbucks denied Phillips' allegation, saying the company needed someone with a track record of strength and resolution during a crisis and replaced her with a regional manager who had such experience. After navigating the aftermath of the 2013 Boston Marathon bombings. Wow. So you got replaced by someone who is better at your job. Whoopsie. Probably shouldn't do that anymore now that Tim Pool's happy about it. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, also, if you follow Majority Report, you're probably getting every clip drip fed to you. I think this is what they're going to be doing for their content for like the next month. But Emma Vigeland fucking slayed Tim Pool like a greedy gold hoarding dragon on his show. It's fucking amazing. Just say it. In an email to the Associated Press, Matasi confirmed the award amount and said the judge will consider awarding back pay and future pay as well as attorney's fees. After the April 2018 incident, Rashawn Nelson... Oh, hold on. Phillips' attorney, however, cited earlier testimony from a black district manager who was responsible for the store where the arrest took place, who described Phillips as someone beloved by her peers and worked around the clock after the arrests. Good on you. Solidarity. Oh, man. In the April 2018 incident, Rashawn Nelson and Dante Robinson were arrested in a Starbucks shop near Tony Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia shortly after the manager called police to report the two men were refusing to make a purchase or leave the premises. They were later released without charges. Wait, the company reached a settlement with both men for an undisclosed sum of money and offer a free college education. Nice. Good deal. The two men also reached a deal with Philadelphia for a symbolic $1 each, and a promise from officials to set up a $200,000 program for young entrepreneurs. The Philadelphia Police Department adopted a new policy on how to deal with people accused of trespassing on private property, warning business against misusing the authority of police officers. Okay. You know what? After having read all the context for that story, I'm perfectly okay with it. No matter how it went, how it goes, all this bullshit. Fuck Starbucks. They should lose $25 million. Not specifically for this. Actually, what I would really enjoy, really enjoy, is if we started fining Starbucks for their abuses of labor laws. That's what we should be getting them for. Let's do it. Because I'm pretty sure that the threshold for how much money we could take from them over that is a lot higher. And I'm just talking huge punitive damages. 25 million in if we can do 25 million in punitive damages over this, then I'm pretty sure that we should be able to award some punitive damages to those who have lost their jobs due to union busting and literally doing things that are illegal. maybe the problem is that this district manager, this white district manager lady, was wealthy enough to be able to afford a nice lawyer, whereas most of the people who are on the shit end of the stick with all this union discrimination are poor. And that's why they're fighting for better wages. And they can't afford lawyers to sue the company over their bullshit. Anyways, if you're a lawyer out there and you happen to know someone who has faced discrimination by Starbucks, maybe that'd be a nice pro bono case. You get a $25 million punitive damages, get your little cut of that. That's how you do it. But there are some poor people out there who really need to start some cases against Starbucks, just saying. Anyways, let's see what the poll results are for last week's questions. Do you support Israel's policy of destroying the homes of individuals that commit terrorist attacks across the country? I can't believe how many people said yes to this. Like, why though? Why? Why would you destroy their house? I don't get this. Like, presumably, also, yeah, commit terrorist attacks. So these aren't like suspects. But like, why is that a punishment? Like, you know, you could take the. Oh God. There's no right way to answer this question. It took me a second there, but okay, yeah, here's my knee-jerk reaction though. My knee-jerk reaction is to say, why would you destroy a home, especially living in a country with a homeless problem that could easily be solved with all the homes sitting vacant, many of those waiting for an Airbnb to pick them up. We could solve our homeless problem several times over by just letting them live in homes that are currently unoccupied. So the idea that somewhere in the world someone is destroying people's houses, it's kind of fucked. I mean, look, like, if you have convicted this person of doing a terrorist attack, I'm assuming you've either murdered them or they're going to be in jail for the rest of their lives. In either case, they're not coming back for that house. Their time using that house is over. There's no reason to take it out on the house. They might have a family, for instance, who would like to live in that house. Their family is not terrorists. Although, after what you've done to their family member, they might become so. Probably a lot more likely to become so if you bulldoze their house. I would say that you could take ownership of the house and give it to someone else, but that would be a really, really tricky solution for Israel because they're already trying to gentrify all of Palestine anyways by forcing their people out, murdering them, destroying their homes, stealing their homes, etc. So this is just more of the same Israel bullshit. Just a tremendous amount of territorial racism, and everyone in charge of Israel should rot in hell as well. Right alongside the people at UPS who decided to force their drivers to do their work without air conditioning. Right next to those people, maybe. Now, you know what? Apartheid, it's probably more up there with slavery than is forcing people to work without air conditioning. We'll put that on a lower circle of hell. I'm just going to assume the lower ones are worse. It's down there somewhere with slavery, and then we got the air conditioning thing. Starbucks too. Not quite as bad as the air conditioning thing. You're fucking with people's livelihoods, not necessarily their life. So I guess that's a higher circle of hell. So in terms of like shitty behavior, I guess we have Starbucks, UPS, apartheid Israel, and literal slave owners. Yeah, that's how I'm going to rank those out. If you'd like to see a tier list of shitty people, I could put some more thought into that. Do you think the writings of the Covenant shooter should be made public? Nearly 58% said yes. But like, maybe it's just that I didn't follow this case intently. Because if I followed every mass shooting in America intently, I wouldn't have time for anything else. But like, what writings? Like, this is still kind of a fundamental question to answer before I can really understand what I feel about that question. It's like, you know, just because you shot some people doesn't mean that all of your fucking writings have suddenly become public. Feels a little fucked. What is the right skipping out on? Rent is falling across the U.S. for the first time since 2020. While the Midwest and Northeast have seen rent increases, the West and South have recorded year-over-year declines. So, okay. So what you're saying is that in the areas of the country largely considered to be Trump's America, rent prices have been steadily in decline since Trump left office. Okay, I think I get why there's literally zero right-wing coverage of this. I mean, there weren't many people covering it to begin with, because we're all fucking doomers, I guess, but... For the left, what is the left missing out on? Church attendance below pre-pandemic levels. Pandemic may have contributed to the decline in attendance, with many Americans getting out of the habit of attending religious services weekly due to temporary church closures and ongoing COVID-19 avoidance. So, who gives a fuck? They have the right to make the, like, they can spend their Sundays any way they want to. Maybe people realize that even during a pandemic, there are better things to do than spending literally every week being propagandized. I don't know. I mean, honestly, a lot of these people probably are just watching propaganda on television now instead of hearing it from the pulpit, but I'm not sure which of those is better, honestly. I don't know whether... I mean, I guess the left would have to admit, like, that some of the right's fears about churches and stuff and COVID restrictions were, I guess, through this a bit, let's say, like, justified or founded, but that there were actually negatives to it. What's the right missing out on? Nearly half of U.S. honeybee colonies died last year. Struggling beekeepers stabilize population. Wow. Nearly half in 1 year. That's like if 150 plus million Americans drop dead in the next 12 months. It's goddamn ridiculous. What are we doing to these poor bees? The annual U.S. honeybee survey found that almost half of managed bee colonies were lost between April 2020 and April 2021, the second highest loss on record. Oh wow, there's a higher loss? God damn. Despite this, the overall number of colonies remained relatively stable as beekeepers used costly measures to create new colonies. But how many times can they do that, you know? Like, how many times can we... How do we keep this up? You know, there's not a lot of left-wing coverage on this either. It's definitely a blind spot for the right, but the left is not necessarily all over it. All right, what's the left missing out on? BlackRock recruiter says $10,000 can buy a senator, calls Ukraine war good for business. Why is the left ignoring this? I don't understand. This has got to be a liberal thing. No left coverage. 15 sources, all right wing. This has got to be a war-related culture war issue, right? An undercover video allegedly shows a BlackRock recruiter discussing how financial institutions like BlackRock can buy politicians and how the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine is good for business, noting the volatility of the market and the opportunity to make a profit. I'm gonna have to do a larger video on this, because why the fuck wouldn't I? Because this is right the fuck up my alley. Good grief. It's a shame that I only have right-wing sources on it, but we'll figure out how to make that work. For the right, what are they missing out on? A Delaware city is set to give corporations the right to vote in elections. Y'all really taking this corporations or people way too fucking far, Delaware. The town of Seaford, Delaware has changed its charter to allow each business in the town one vote in local elections, which has raised concerns about corporate influence on election results. Yeah, because that's giving people multiple votes, essentially. Start a small business, get a second vote. Yay! I could have a bunch of businesses on paper. I mean, is there a limit? Like, how many votes can I get? Could I buy 10? Could I buy 20? Is it all about how many LLCs I'm willing to set up to exert my influence on local elections? Absolutely no right-wing coverage on this one, by the way. Fuck no! That's an easy answer. God damn. Alright, what's the left missing out on? Gays? Fewer in the US say same-sex relations are morally acceptable. Yeah. Once again, we fucking get it. Republicans are largely responsible for the changes in views on same-sex relations and the death penalty this year. Well, that's an odd thing to combine there, but kind of scary actually when you say it like that. As fewer Republicans now hold the view that same-sex relations are morally acceptable, whereas a greater proportion now believe the death penalty is morally acceptable. Have y'all read the 10 Commandments? Because one of these things is in there and one of them isn't. I seem to remember a thou shalt not kill. I do not at all remember a thou shalt not suck a homie's dick. At least not in the 10 Commandments. Actually, I don't remember the word homie showing up in the Bible at all, but, you know. So, oh wait, these Republicans are not necessarily Christians, but, let's face it, we know who you are. We know where you're getting your beliefs from, and we understand. Like, but believe me, we get it. Like, the left didn't have to fucking publish this. This isn't news to us at all. We're not celebrating it. We're not happy about it. Of course we aren't talking about it. Of course we aren't covering it. We already fucking get it. It is a day-to-day struggle and like painful realization that we have to go through as LGBT people in this country. We have to watch as after gaining rights, they are slowly stripped away. It's like slavery ending, and then all of a sudden people start implementing laws that are similar to slavery, but not quite the same. Maybe that person's name is Jim Crow. Maybe this did actually happen. It's not just a hypothetical theoretical. It's just kind of how we do with minorities. We give them about 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. Maybe 1.5 sometimes. And if you happen to be a minority against the war, then the FBI will try to gaslight you into committing suicide and then ultimately likely assassinate you outside of a hotel. If that seems like a really specific incident, Google it. You'll see who I'm talking about. Alright, time for some split headlines. This week's story is New Zealand debates whether ethnicity should be a factor for surgery wait lists. Okay. New Zealand starts giving priority to Maori and Pacific elective surgery patients. New ranking system prioritizing patients on ethnicity to improve equity, experts say. New Zealand debates whether ethnicity should be a factor in surgery waitlists. Divisive surgeries, now we're getting into the right debate. Divisive surgery debate alarms New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister. What? That's a weird angle. Disgusted. New Zealand surgeons now required to consider ethnicity of patients. Instinctively, I don't like this. If it solves a genuine problem. I don't know anything about the Maori people, or really what kind of discrimination folks from Pacific Islands face in New Zealand. I don't know. I am ignorant of those things. Therefore, I don't really feel like I should have an opinion on this. Like, if they have been... Like, okay, here's the parallel. I think I mentioned this last month, right? The way that we have this ingrained pattern of like medically scientizing, medicalizing this idea that black people don't need medical care in the same way that white people do. If there's a factor like this going on, right, to where Maori or Pacific Island people are more consistently shuffled to the back of the line, then what we're talking about here is essentially affirmative action. We're talking about a situation where the status quo already is deeply discriminatory and making an effort to even that out. Anyways, there's, I guess, potentially there are arguments for and against this. So, not knowing a lot about it, I'm not really going to talk about it. Do you agree with the verdict in the Starbucks racial discrimination case? Most people said yes. I don't know. I really, like, even after reading a full article on that one, I'm really not sure where I stand on that, except to say that it does feel good to see Starbucks getting sued over their bullshit. Is this the bullshit I wanted to see them get sued over? Not by any means. But it's always nice to see a major corporate entity, one which, according to BlackRock, could buy a senator for only $10,000, actually being held accountable for their bullshit. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel hopeful that there's a future in which people aren't fucking-hensible. Where we all treat each other with equity. We all live according to the principles of providing to one's ability and taking what one needs. Pretty sure I said that wrong. From each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Yeah. No, I said the right thing. That's just kind of the sort of future that I hope for. So where we all work together to make each other's lives easier instead of working chaotically against each other and undermining each other at every point. A world in which unity is possible instead of weirdly racially charged decision making. Mostly I just hope for a world in which we can all be happy, where suffering can be minimized. I mean, we have the power to minimize suffering. We do. That's all paywall. Money is just an idea that we've come up with as a way to excuse giving certain people less. We use money to justify suffering because most people are suffering because they don't have enough money. Therefore, it's okay. It's something we can blame them for. It's a you problem, not an us problem. But it absolutely is, and always has been, always will be, an us problem. And if any of you actually read your fucking Bible, then you would know about the phrase brother's keeper. To be our brother or sister's keeper means being willing to put aside whatever we might be dealing with at the present time in our own lives and receiving direction from God on how to best help someone. It's not necessarily the best way to do this, because maybe you should ask the person what kind of help they need. I don't know why there needs to be a middleman, but maybe we should all take care of each other. I'm just saying, you know, if you're going to be religious, you should probably be against the death penalty, and you should probably be a lot more socialistic in nature. That's my opinion. You can disagree with it. And feel free to disagree with it in the comments. I really appreciate the engagement on these videos. It helps other people see them, and that's always nice. So, if you'd like to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, like the video so that I know it's going over well. Tell your friends. Share the news with others that you love. And there's going to be a lot of links in the description. Actually, just one big link to a link tree that's going to have access to the entire Jackie Fox Media Empire. That's going to include books, podcasts, and videos. In addition to ways to donate to the channel, a Discord for the hanging out, and there's a board game in there too. If you want to play a digital board game with me that I play on Sundays, we can do that together as well. All sorts of ways that we could hang out and just have a good time together. Forget all the bad things in the news and have fun. So, this has been the news you missed as of June. We're going into July, so let's see what we can miss in July. See you then.